Phil. And I'm going to introduce later on Saba Ahmed, who's also here with me. And we're very proud to be here tonight. First of all, we're very appreciative of Portland people's response for letting us join in to their kind of normal Friday night demonstrations, which they have every Friday night, normally against the war. So people should always feel free to come here on Friday evenings at 5 o'clock. But I'm proud to be here tonight in particular. Yeah, we can. We're going to do it. In support of our colleagues in Pakistan. So,
we're only going to be here for about. I'm sorry, I can't. We're fine.
So, gee, this is just like Pakistan. So it's a strange and confusing world when people are actually rallying in support of lawyers, and when you see lawyers out there in the streets in the forefront of a struggle against a military tyrant. But that certainly is evidence of the moral and legal bankruptcy of the Musharraf regime. When Musharraf declared emergency rule, people were threatened with 3 years in jail for violating censorship laws, with trial before a military court. Sound familiar? 75 members of Pakistan's Human Rights Commission were arrested for meeting, just for meeting, many of whom are women. Judges were required to take an oath of allegiance to the military dictatorship. And 14 of the 17 judges on the Pakistan Supreme Court refused to do that and have been removed from office. And about 60 of the 97 judges in the country in the trial courts have been removed. And many of those judges, as well as lawyers now who have been arrested in the streets, are being held either in jail or being held under house arrest, including the Chief Justice in Pakistan. Now, the Bush administration has been putting pressure on Musharraf to hold elections, which he's now agreed to do in February. But there's no guarantee as to when those elections will happen. Musharraf originally agreed to hold the elections in January. Now he's saying February. But number one, there's no guarantee that will happen. But more importantly, the Bush administration is putting no pressure on Musharraf to end emergency rule. And that, it seems to me, needs to be our focus at this point. To release the lawyers who are in prison, to release the people who are being held in jails, to open up again freedom of the press in Pakistan. All of that has been stopped, and the Bush administration is doing nothing at this point to force Musharraf to end emergency rule. Not quite that. So the question is really what we need to be doing here. Number one, we need to understand that since September 11th, how much money do you think the United States has given to Pakistan just since September 11th of 2001? Any ideas? Somebody's been doing their homework. In fact, $10 billion have been given to Musharraf. And obviously the best way to encourage him to release the judges from prison, to end emergency rule, is to say to him, no more aid until people are released, the emergency rule ends, and elections happen. But the question is why the U.S. isn't putting pressure. And the answer is, at least that the Bush administration will tell you, is we need Musharraf as our ally in the war against terrorism. But the fallacy of that way of thinking, which has of course gotten us into the quagmire in Iraq and threatened to get us into a quagmire in Iran, is a total lack of understanding of how terrorism, and more accurately, the spread of religion by violence happens. And there's a great article in The Nation magazine this week, you can check it online, which basically tells you that most Pakistanis are clear. We have to be able to stop the spread of religion by violence. But the way that's going to happen is not by supporting military regimes. The way it's going to be happening in Pakistan or Iran or Iraq is to use funds for education, for development, and for democracy. That's what's necessary to create a population that's not going to be in favor of religious violence. And that's where our U.S. tax dollars should be used. So one thing, though, is certain. Islamic militancy does not come from a strong judiciary, but whatever Musharraf says. And martial law must end, and we need to protest and demonstrate and contact our congresspeople to halt aid to Pakistan until this emergency and martial rule ends. So I'd now like to introduce Saba Ahmed. Saba was born in Pakistan. Her mother actually is here as well. And she still goes back regularly to see family in Pakistan. She has a degree in electrical engineering and physics from Portland State, and for some reason is now a law student, second-year law student at Lewis and Clark. So let me introduce Saba.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, National Lawyers Guild, for organizing this. I am really glad that you guys have been able to pull this off in such a short time. There are a few things I'd like to talk about. I've been asked to speak about where the aid from U.S. taxpayers is really going from the perspective of someone who's from Pakistan. And I'd like to start off by mentioning some numbers about where the aid has actually been going. I did some research and I found out that over the last 27 years, from 1977 to 2000, the U.S. government has spent about over $370 million over ex-presidents and their personal expenses. And I compared that to the president's and our prime minister's expenses for the last 8 years, since they've been supported by the U.S. taxpayers. And over $201 million was spent on Pakistani Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz and the Pakistani President General Pervez Musharraf in the last 8 years. So according to the leading newspaper in Pakistan, it cost over $133 million just for their travel expenses over the last, for these two people. And the rest was for their salary and their extravagant expenses. And so the cost for U.S. presidential expenses for the 23 years was $370 million, and the cost of the Pakistani Prime Minister was about $201 million in just 1/3 of the time. And in addition, over $500 million have been given directly to other military officials and generals in Pakistan. There's a few books that came out, Military Ink by Aisha Siddiqui. It's banned in Pakistan. It talks about the military and how much it has been spent. And it talks about each Pakistani general is currently, their net worth has gone over $2 million per general. So, and the military officials have received over $500 million in cash salaries, along with bonuses of luxury cars, 2 to 3 mansions, and other
it is actually a part of
luxuries. And they will obviously not be revolting against their own general, because when you're getting that type of money from your president and from the U.S. taxpayers, they will never. So the only people you'll see inside Pakistan revolting against General Pervez Musharraf are the common day people, students, universities, activists. All of those people. None of the military officials or the people who are already in the government are protesting, because they're getting so much aid, and all this money is going towards their personal houses and luxuries. But then again, you would say that this is only $700 million out of the $10 billion that's been spent over the last 5 years. Well, obviously that's just the military. Then there's like the Navy, there's the Air Force, there are other armed forces, and then obviously they're buying military missiles, rockets, equipment, and other stuff. And even today, the Bush administration concluded that if they're not legally required to cut any aid to Pakistan, so therefore this shall continue, even despite the emergency situation.
What I would do is just, like I said, you've got their number too, so I'd invite you to contact or communicate them, and I'll let them know that you're inviting them.
And so now let me get to the actual situation in Pakistan. I have actually quite a bit of family there. I have like my sisters are there, and I have lots of family. My parents' families, my in-laws. I have lots of families. And I talked to my sisters and some of my friends earlier today. And they told me that the current situation, I mean, in Islamabad and Karachi, is basically on the ground. People cannot go outside the house without fearing their lives. They don't know if they'll be arrested. They don't know if they're going to, and if they get arrested, the situation over there is that anyone who's getting arrested, they're not allowed to appeal, and they're not allowed to see their family. So nobody in the family can visit them in the jails, and they cannot appeal. So basically, those people, lawyers that have gotten arrested, they're being beaten up in jails. There are severe things that are happening. President Musharraf has basically allowed lawlessness, open lawlessness, and the police have authority to fire upon anybody who does not obey them. And so currently, I mean, this is not helping get rid of terrorism. This is actually encouraging it, because it's not the only, I mean, you're enabling the police force to fire upon anybody and for any reason, basically, and arrest them for protesting or any basic rule. And so there is a huge abuse from the judiciary, abuse from the media, and freedom of speech. And over 2,000 lawyers have been arrested in the last 6 days, and over 5,000 civilian people have been arrested. And so there are lots of these things happening. I mean, according to the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW, and there's all these basic human rights that prevent that, but none of those rules are being followed, and they're actually being laughed upon from the Pakistani government. And so we really need to severely stop this from going much forward. And the abuse on the media and the freedom of speech, I'd like to mention that I'm told, when I was talking to my family earlier today, they told me that all the TV stations have been banned, but although, like with the revolution of the internet, I mean, obviously they can go online and watch the TV, and they have all these YouTube videos that are posted of lawyers being beaten up through cell phone video cameras. They're posting them, and they're sending them, trying to get the message out. President Musharraf is trying to get the population of Pakistan back to what they used to be in '99, when there was only one TV station, no internet was there. And now it's not really possible. By shutting off all the TV stations, you're not going to prevent the people from finding out the news. So that's one thing. And the news channels that have been allowed, to stay on air, they have to sign a code of agreement, basically stating that they won't report any useful news, and they are basically, if they have so many restrictions on them, if you actually follow them, you can't report anything besides the weather news or something like that. So some of the reporters were questioning that. So and also some of the news stations in Islamabad, they have been vandalized, and the police force have the authority to go and seize any equipment, anything at all. So it's like, now that there is no accountability, they can go and arrest whoever they want, take away any personal property without any just cause or without any reason when they might get it back. And also, so most of the news stations are airing from Dubai and posting using the internet to get their message out. I have friends, lots of friends. I finished my high school in Pakistan, so I have lots of friends from there. So, and I talked to several of them online since they're all stuck at home. I mean, I was talking to some of my friends this morning, and they were telling me they can't go outside the house. They're in the house, and all they can do is be online. So they're just trying to blog, and they're tell that if they go outside, they're fear for their lives, and it's a very fearful environment. So I think ultimately the people who are suffering are the people of Pakistan. They're not being allowed freedom of expression. They're not being allowed to protest the government, and so that it's a very serious situation from the lawyers' side and elsewhere. And there are some recommendations that personally I think that would help this situation. I mean, if we're serious, if the United States is serious about the war on terrorism, we really need to analyze how we are spending those billions of dollars that are being spent. That is our money. That is my taxpayer money. That's all of ours taxpayers' money. I mean, we live in the United States. We pay taxes. It is not meant to buy Ferraris or Bentleys for the generals in Pakistan. This is not why. I mean, we are all paying taxes. problem of international terrorism, it's not going to be solved by throwing money at just a few individuals. I mean, no matter how good they are, if they're taking away democratic freedom of speech, freedom of basic human rights, they're not really helping the country or our war on terror. And just to mention, like, the United States gave over $10 billion in the last 5 years. Not even 1% of that was spent on education. If we really wanted to, I mean, this is a long-term thing. We really need to look at it from a long-term perspective. Even if we spent 0.1% of that 10 billion on education, making institutions, educating those people that go and do these types of suicide bombings, they have nothing else to do. They're sitting at home. They have nothing. They don't even have their Islamic education. They're not even aware of their own religion. Our religion forbids them from hurting any innocent person, and they go and kill these. And it's very heartless. So I mean, you know, even teaching them about their own religion, opening education institutions that allow Islamic education as well as science education, so that they form, and that ultimately, if people are educated, they'll form their own businesses, they'll form their own jobs, they will have some stuff to do, rather than going out and hurting innocent people. And so, I mean, I would really recommend, and so most of the current religious leaders that become so extremist in Pakistan, they're the ones that dropped out of school. They're not the ones that were able to even complete high school. So you're talking about people who, and they have nothing else to do. When they make these recommendations of Islam, like, they go into the deepest, they take it out of context, and they motivate people without actually listening to what they're preaching. And they give out fatwas, religious orders, which are completely against Islam. Islam does not allow any type of killing. And so Islam by itself, it means peace. And they're not being peaceful by killing their own people. And it's very, very sad. And so I really urge that, you know, President Musharraf, he's only encouraging those terrorists. There is no other way for them to fight. They can't fight democratically. You can't use the legal system there. The only way anybody's standing up to him is through, like, you know, you can go around killing people or that sort of stuff. And that's not helping anyone at all. And so, and the other thing I'd like to mention, I mean, Pakistan is right next to India, China. It's at an ideal location for the United States to invest and increase the, if we develop the country and make it our partner, the people of Pakistan will support the United States. The people of Pakistan supported President Musharraf for the last 5 years, but now it's just gotten out of hand. He has taken his powers and misused them, and so that's why we really need to trust, and we will come out of this. And the war on terrorism, we will fight it with you, and it's just that we need to enable the country to be developed, and we need to provide education to these, especially women, children, and all these people who are thinking of doing wrong things. So I'd really recommend that education would be our focus if we really want to eradicate the terrorists in the long term. And so focusing on that would help the most. And I mean, just to mention one other statistic, over 60% of Pakistan's population is illiterate. By educating them, we're going to help them as well as helping our own country. And so, and another thing, I mean, Benazir Bhutto, she was the former prime minister, and she just returned to Pakistan, and she's been helping. But I don't think that that's the way to go either, just because, I mean, her husband was known as like Mr. 10% in the country. Any type of contract, any type of donation that you give, 10% of that used to go to her husband. She took over $1.5 billion from the Pakistani budget for her personal bank accounts that were transferred to Swiss. So it's not like, we cannot trust that either. The only way to go, there are other people, there are good people. I mean, like Imran Khan, there are good political parties. The only reason they're not able to come up is because they receive death threats, and then they get scared of standing up to the president or standing up to these major political parties. That's why we need to support those people, get them out, get their opinion. By banning the TV, we're not going to listen to anyone. And so, United States currently, the impression of that the United States and the Pakistan is not very nice. People do not like it, but if we actually try to help their country, if we try to build them education system, provide them with opportunities inside their country, you know, encourage Islamic education. Don't just say Islam is bad. Don't support those extremists, because that's exactly what they want us to do, and we don't want to do that. We spent over $207 million just for the personal expenses of Pervez Musharraf and Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz. If we could have spent those $207 million on schools in Pakistan, in 5 years, so many people would have graduated, and they would have found jobs. They would have done stuff to do then rather than just sitting home and being scared. Now even the educated people have gotten scared and they're sitting at home. So I urge everybody to please support Pakistan and stop the President Musharraf from the emergency situation. He has been able to abuse the judiciary. We need to restore the constitution. One person should not have the power to overturn a whole country's constitution. And it has not set up a good example for our country. Pakistan is it's a good stabilized country. By overturning the Supreme Court and just eradicating and setting up the new rules just for one person, it's not fair to the country, and it's not setting a good example in the world, in the eyes of the world. And we really need to support the people of Pakistan, and this is the time when the United States can make that change and help the people of Pakistan recover. So I really thank you all for coming out tonight and helping this cause and helping us impeach or...
So first of all, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. We have a lot of lawyers here. First of all, we had some wonderful labor people here from the Teamsters, and we really appreciate them coming out. And we have lawyers from lots of different groups here. We have people from the Oregon Child Lawyers Association. Steve Hendricks is the head of that association. I think Charlie Williamson is here. He used to be a former head of the Oregon State Bar. And we have a real diverse group of people who are coming together. So the most important lessons are, don't let it stop tonight. We should continue to monitor the situation. If we need to be in the streets, our comrades in Pakistan are in the streets. We need to get more lawyers out to come into the streets. Yeah. Number two, we should be talking to people in Congress about ending aid until the state of emergency ends. At this point, we have people running for the Senate. Pressure should be put on those people. We should be putting pressure on all of our senators right now, as well as our Congress people, to end aid until the emergency rule ends. And Will Seaman is here. Now, this may be a little bit uncomfortable for the lawyers here, but usually at the end of the Friday night rallies here, we do some marching around the square. So we're going to do a little bit of marching around the square. Will, where are you?
Right here. Over there with his drum.
And what chant? Do we have ideas for chants?
Well, I'll tell you, our colleagues in Pakistan, the lawyers that are in jail, over 3,000 of them. 1/4 of the lawyers in Pakistan are in jail. They have signs up. That's why they're arrested. And they're saying, "Go, Musharraf, go." And they don't mean that in a positive sense. They really mean go. And so I think we should start that way. Go, Musharraf, go.
Go, Musharraf, go. Go, Musharraf, go. Go, Musharraf, go. Go, Musharraf, go!
Go, Musharraf, go! Go, Musharraf, go!
So should we, for those of us who want wills, should we march?
Follow them.
Where do we want to go?
Typically, we try to hit the main commute arteries to be seen by as many people heading home for the weekend as possible. And you'll be accompanied by the No War Drum Corps, which I suspect will inspire you to raise your voices and say,
Go, Musharraf, go! Go, Musharraf, go!
Musharraf, go!
That's right.
I'll ask your boy.
I haven't even been able to get there to read it, but I'm pretty sure I know what it says.
Support Congressman Kucinich.
That's right.
Don't forget about him.
That's about our stuff. Our stuff.
Say that again.
In Pakistan today, lawyers are being beaten in jails. The Supreme Court has been dismissed.
I'm so proud to see
The Constitution has been suspended. Journalists are being jailed. All this by under the rule of President Musharraf. Democracy for Pakistan. Musharraf must go. The democracy for Pakistan. Musharraf must go. Democracy for Pakistan. Musharraf must go.
Oh, I've been around.
Democracy for
Yeah.
Pakistan.
When was the last time I seen you?
When was the last time?
Yeah, probably. Long time back.
Oh, just a couple of years maybe?
Jeez.
Yeah. Where you been hanging out?
Oh, I've been coming out to all these little events and you know and
Oh, that's Dick Brown. I didn't see you there.
yeah.
So you're doing okay?
I'm doing okay. Yeah. I don't come down on Fridays so much because I'm working. I signed out early.
I'm here in your place. Don't worry. Thank you.
Democracy for Pakistan! Let's go! 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 refusing the military aid that Bashar depends on. No justice, no peace. 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 No justice. This is another Friday rally, which we have been doing for over 5 years, and unfortunately, I think there's a need to be doing this for quite some time. So I just want to thank everybody for coming down here once again. If there's anybody that has anything they'd like to say.
Gudars.
Gudars.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're taking that.
No Gudars.
I just wanted to make an announcement. On November 30th, we will have a forum on Iran. We have two speakers. One is Ali Shakiri, who was one of the 4 Iranian Americans arrested in Tehran in suspicion of acting on behalf of United States $75 million democracy project of the State Department. And finally, after 150 days of imprisonment, he was released and he's back in the U.S. And working hard, just like the rest of us, to keep the peace and stop the threat of attack on Iran. The other speaker is Reese Ehrlich. He's a journalist and the author of the book, The Agenda, Iran, the real story of U.S. foreign policy and Middle East crisis. It's November 30th, Friday afternoon at 6:30 at Unitarian Church at Salmon Street Sanctuary. I hope you can come and join us in that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have a flyer here if anybody wants.
I'd just like to remind everybody also that tomorrow being the second Saturday of the month, we're going to be over in front of the military recruiting station on Northeast Broadway and 13th to try to shut it down and to make it a little bit more difficult for the military machine to find cannon fodder to continue their wars of aggression.
What time?
Yes, that's at 11 o'clock. From 11 to 1 in front of the military recruiting station on Northeast 13th and Broadway.
I just want to mention one more thing to think about. This is a very local issue, and that is the controversy which you may have read about, the renaming of Interstate Avenue to Cesar Chavez Boulevard. The sad part of this controversy, and there are many sad parts, but for me the saddest part is everything I have read in the Oregonian, everything I've heard, even on OPB, everything I've seen in the Mercury and the Willamette Week has really not done anything like a reasonable journalistic job of reporting what this controversy is about and why it has come to this. If you want to find out more, please visit the website. It's Cesar E. Chavez Boulevard. .com, or tune in to KBOO Tuesday morning to Abe and Joe's show, 7:30 in the morning. Martha Wimbez from the committee that's involved in this renaming will be on along with another representative. It'll be a chance to find out what you haven't heard about this name change.
3 p.m. Thursday.
And perhaps most important of all, you see, this is the conspiracy right here. We can't even talk together. And Thursday at 3 p.m., of course, is the City Council meeting. Let me just mention one aspect of this. It's represented in the media as if people involved who want this name change to take place have accused the opposition of being just a bunch of racists. That is not what has happened. What has happened is there has been a significant component of the opposition that has expressed their opposition in very, very ugly and racist ways. And the question is, how is the city going to respond to that? And how is the news agencies of this city going to report this controversy in a way that people can compassionately understand the conflict? We are concerned, of course, what is the city council meeting going to be like? If it is anything like the neighborhood meetings that have been held in Overlook and other neighborhoods, it could be very ugly indeed, and it's that much more important for people of good intentions and good heart to show up and express their concern. Either way, how they feel about this name change, express their concern for the ugly face of racism as it has shown itself in this city. People say that this racism has been incited by the attempt to change the name of Interstate. No one has talked about how the climate of racism and hatred has been encouraged by people like Bill O'Reilly and Lou Dobbs and so many of the other people who command the airwaves and have talked about the immigration issue in such a skewed and very ugly way. So please, if you can make it, or at least express your opinion to the City Council so that people like the mayor, who has courageously, for example, stood up against the ICE raids in North Portland, and Sten and other people know that they have support, and please appeal to Randy Leonard and Sam Adams to rethink their position on this. Thank you very much for being out here. Thanks for letting me ramble on about this issue. And Rob has said we'll just wrap it up. So,
6 years, man.
6 years out here on Pioneer Courthouse Square. We can change the direction of this country if we work together. Thank you for being here tonight.
I said preach impeach. Preach impeach. Holla at your boy about here.
Say again?
Preach.
No, I didn't.
There you go.
Thank you.
Hey, believe me, we've been preaching impeachment.
Yeah.